to go.
Awesome. So we are going to start our reading tonight with Arthur Altarejos. He's going to be reading in 2 languages, which I'm very excited about. Arthur Altarejos is a Filipino community organizer, community worker, and health educator based in New York City. He writes about the things lost and gained in translation between Hiligaynon, Tagalog, and English, the languages of his home. His writing has appeared or will soon appear in Skyland Journal and Blue Daisies Journal. Arthur, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Renee and KB. I will be reading in both languages. This piece was actually a performance piece meant to be read by 2 people at the same time, with both languages intersecting with each other. Unfortunately, my friend who usually reads with me can't make it tonight, but if you go to my Instagram account, literathur.a, literathur.a, there's a video of us performing the piece at a protest here in New York City. I'll send it in the chat. Yeah, but let me get started. I'll read the Tagalog version first before I read the English version. And I actually wrote the English version. I wrote the English version first before translating it into Tagalog. It was conceived during, like I said, last year we found out that the son of the former dictator won the presidency in my country, and we had demonstrations outside of the Philippine consulate here in New York City. And that day we had demonstrations at sunset, and it was just the deepest red sunset you could see in the East Coast. It was beautiful, but also it was such a painful moment for my people. And that was really what inspired this piece. So let me just get right to it. Batasan ng lansangan. Naririnig ko na sila bago pa ako lumiko. Hinahati ang hangin, kutsilyo'y kanta, at katok ng tibok ng tambol, nagunita ng tunog ng sumasayaw na kawayan. Dito sa puso ng imperyo, kalahating mundo ang pagitan. Sila'y nagtatagpo't nakikiramay para magbukas ng korte at ipatunay na ang distansya ay hindi nagbubunga ng apatiya, na hindi rin ito tinatastas ang tela ng pag-alala, na bawat kawalan ay kanila ding ikinalulungkot, at bawat kaapihan ay kanila ding hahatulan. Na may pananalig kasing sigla ng araw at tapang ng isang bala na pinalaya, sila'y patuloy na umaawit sa ilalim ng isang radyaktibong kalangitan na binumunyag ang bawat butil ng galit ng bawat kasaping umaraang magkongreso bilang isang bayan sa dayuhang lupang ito. And so the English version is called Street Parliament. In the Philippines, that's what we called protest actions in the 70s and 80s because the parliament that was in power was so corrupt and so controlled by the dictator that the people decided to have their own parliaments in the streets. And so we call that the street parliamentary. I hear them before I even turn the corner, carving the dull air with song and drum beats reminiscent of the sound of dancing bamboo. In this city, at the heart of empire, half a world away, they come to hold court and prove that distance does not beget apathy, nor does it strain the fabric of memory, that each loss is also theirs to mourn, and each slight theirs too to condemn, with the conviction of daylight and the confidence of a bullet. They sing their songs beneath a radioactive sky, reflecting every bit of rage of every little life who has managed to congress into a nation on this foreign soil. So thank you again, KB and all the editors of Writers Resist for publishing that piece. And let me just share my screen for the next one, actually. This is...
Arthur, we're gonna go over everyone reading their first piece included, and then we're gonna go back.
Sure thing.
And
Thank
everybody
you very
will
much.
have a chance. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for your reading. That was amazing. And Sarah is coming next.
That was really something. I enjoyed that. Thank you. Oh, and I'm following it on Instagram. You should follow me back. Okay, Christy Bukovecki is going to read The Crucible. She's a geneticist in New York City, devotes her days to finding answers for families caught in the diagnostic odyssey. In the evening, she can be found either enjoying excellent food and ridiculous games with friends or curled up on the couch with her husband and cats, notebook in hand. That sounds like the cats are writing in the notebook, Christy. I think I would enjoy that.
They like to try.
Ever curious about the world and our place in it, Christy turns to poetry to examine truths we hold within ourselves. Previous work can be found in Humana Obscura and on Instagram. Put your handle down in the chat when you are finished.
I absolutely will. It's been a little quiet on there lately, but I will. Thanks. All right. The Crucible, based on a true story. An old friend messaged today, told me, got a funny story if you have time, and sent a clip. Writing by an old colonial I recognized, despite a view obscured by rain and the barred windows he'd had to film behind. Nothing like riding down your own old street in the back of a police car. So I made time. I clawed it back from meetings, spreadsheets, VIPs. You must, for someone who made a kinder home of your heart. Our bond was forged 20 years ago, tempered in apparent contradiction. Honor student, future tradesman, class president, class clown, teacher's pet, boy given detention, just for walking down the hall with a traffic cone on his head. Was in town for a job, stopped by to thank our science teacher. Her class made me a better welder. I hope to tell her that now I teach students like me, make them see how working with your hands doesn't mean you're stupid. I always knew he was smart. He knew I wished being smart didn't matter as much as being kind. She wasn't there, but that admin guy who used to file my detention slips, yeah, he's principal now. Lectured me for not knowing to sign in, then had me arrested for trespass. Funny how some things never change. The last time I went back, administration offered me cake.
Thank you, Chrissy, for sharing the reading with us. And now we're gonna have Andrea Dulanto. She's gonna read for us The Revolution is Wherever We Are. Andrea is a Latinx queer writer. Publications include Bending Genres, Entropy, Freeze Ray Poetry, Peculiar, SWWIM, Swim Every Day, Berkeley Poetry Review, Court Green, and others. Andrea, if you're ready.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to read, and thank you for publishing this poem. I really love this publication, so thank you so much. And I've loved every work I've heard so far tonight, so thank you to all the writers here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and read my poem. It's called The Revolution is Wherever We Are. Yes, I wore the thrift store t-shirts, the torn fishnets, but I was no riot girl. I was already in my 20s when I read about riot girls in Newsweek, too old to write manifestos on my body. No, it was more like I was too afraid of music that gets into all of your nerves, too loud, too punk, too queer, visceral. Despite my sincere lesbian fuck you to everything, I was secure in the mainstream or the alternative version of the mainstream. Dutiful daughter of conservative South American parents from Argentina and Peru, raised to pass for, present as white, to be the middle class Catholic schoolgirl from the gated Miami suburbs, raised to be wary of all that threatens the fabric of the supermarket and the mall, the go to work, go to bed at a decent time of night lifestyle. Raised to be a 1950s white middle class housewife. Raised to believe in American Top 40, Casey Kasem. I was kept inside with all the safe music. Safe as bleach, nothing safer than strong chemicals to take away the dirt and screams of life. 2. Christmas 2012, alone in my friend's living room, I watch indie films, documentaries, and for the first time, Portlandia. At 42 years old, I consider moving to Portland. But what's in Portland? Same lawns, same garage. I watch every Slater-Kinney video on YouTube. Carrie Brownstein is no longer a young girl playing guitar to kids in record stores. She is mature, polished, styled. She wears red lipstick. Her house is a photo in fashion magazines. Hardwood floors, Mad Men furniture. I am older than Carrie Brownstein, and I'm listening to Slater-Kinney as if I was 15. Oh, the red lipstick. All the songs I didn't know. 3. On stage, Carrie sways and kicks and thrusts her hips over to Corin. Their body language, part of their music, their performance. She rests her head on Corin's shoulder. Another level of punk, another level of not caring what anyone else thinks. Every queer heart opens. 4. No revolution in the suburbs, but the revolution is wherever we are. Alone in your friend's living room, listening to Dig Me Out, a housewife leaving home. Thank you.
So I don't think Amal Al-Sayat is here. No? Okay, then Renee, I'm throwing it back to you.
Yes, and I'm gonna be following up with Maureen Fielding. She's gonna be reading WWJD. Maureen Fielding is an associate professor of English and Women's Studies at Penn State Brandywine. Her work has appeared in Westview, Black Fox Literary Magazine, Marathon Literary Review, and other journals. She has taught English in South Korea, and she has been teaching about Japanese militarized sexual slavery in women's studies classes for 20 years. She's working on a chapbook based on research conducted in South Korea before the pandemic began. She has also written a novel inspired by her experiences as a Russian intercept operator in West Berlin during the Cold War. The photo that accompanies the poem was provided by Maureen as well. The 1919 Los Angeles Daily Times article that inspired the poem that she's going to read for us today is on display at the National Museum of Korean Contemporary History in Seoul, South Korea. Thank you for reading, Maureen.
Hi, thank you for having me and thank you for publishing my poem. So, what would Jesus do? Korean women stripped, tortured by Japanese. Oriental brutality at Seoul. American missionaries take no part. So reads the 70-year-old headline of a Los Angeles Daily Times cutting, yellowing, displayed behind glass in the Museum of Korean Contemporary History. My question is this: did the missionaries take no part in the stripping, the torturing, or the defending? Did those godly folks book first-class passage on the SS Korea, travel thousands of miles across Pacific Ocean swells and surges, battered by typhoons, seasick in their cabins, just to watch young women tied together, struck with swords and butts of guns, dragged off by policemen and soldiers? To deliver Jesus, to save the pagan souls, to witness brutality, to watch torment and humiliation, but to take no part. We learned in school of the martyred missionaries, the Jesuit priests in Canada, Franciscans in Japan, Daughters of Charity in China. These were the missionaries of my childhood, missionaries who could inspire a 10-year-old girl to build a shrine of dandelions and violets, to pray to plastic statues and pictures on the wall, and weep at their sufferings. But who were these missionaries who took no part? The words pain me as if a sword had struck some precious spot, excising some last fragment of faith. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen. That was a very powerful poem. We were really touched by the way in which you told that story. And now we're gonna have a poem read by Emma Goldman Sherman. The poem's title is Judges 19, Remembering the Concubine. Emma Goldman,
If you want to share, oh, sorry, I just wanted to say, if we could put it up so people could read along. Sorry.
awesome. No, you're fine. Emma Goldman Sherman, they is an invisibly disabled, chronically ill, autistic, gender dysphoric, queer, feminist poet and survivor. They support writers and artists at www.bravespace.online. Their plays have been produced in 4 continents. 1 second. Their plays have been produced in 4 continents and published by Brooklyn publishers Next Stage, Applause, and Smith and Krauss. Their podcasts are available at theparsnipship.com and playandgoonair.org and are forthcoming from emptyroomradio.com. Emma has an MFA from University of Iowa, where they helped organize a union for research and teaching assistants. Emma is currently the playwright in residence at Experimental Beach. Their poetry has been published at Oberon, American Athenaeum, Queerlings, Chaotic Merge, the Nasty Women's Poetry Anthology, and others. Learn more at newplayexchange.org. Thank you for reading tonight, Emma.
Emma, if you could hold on 1 sec, and I'm going to see if I can keep your face and the poem both on screen. If not, shall I just share your poem?
Sure.
Okay, let me see what I can do here, because I tried it once with Renee and it didn't work. So let's see.
Okay. If it doesn't work, it's fine. I just thought you did such a great job helping me. We should honor that and let everyone see it.
Yeah, it's not allowing me to capture the
Okay.
the human screen of that. So would you like me to share the poem?
Sure. Yeah.
There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Judges 19, remembering the concubine. After being done to by the pack of men, after she collapsed at the threshold of the old man's shack, after her master discovered her there unresponsive, he cut her up with his sharpened axe. Not for nothing, not for hate, to get everyone's attention, crying the way men cry when they do something brutal. He cleaved her parts to send them out in hemp-woven sacks, dripping and stinking his petition, a missive to the leaders, and her rotten pieces spoke. I hear her singing, her body in 12 parts, a music to force a response in each of 12 tribes, who replied with war, small punishment for blame. They could have done much more, offered care, compassion, yes, new ways to be men, what I want for my sons, and if my father still lived. Let her body be remembered, that her neck might lift her head again, her throat might breathe fresh breeze, her hands unclench and connect to her unbroken wrists, and let her elbows meet her arms to fold across her newly expanding ribs, re-cage her softer organs to claim her heart's own vanished song as her feet realign with her ankles, her knees reborn. Her thighs arise uncrushed as if nothing had ever gone wrong, and let her hips sway freely untorn.
Can you hear me?
We couldn't hear you till just now. So
Okay, something went wrong, But I can see why that won. Yeah. That was pretty upsetting. Thank you for that. We're gonna go with David Eisnogel. Did I say that right? Eisnogel?
Pretty close. I mean, it's
Pretty close. Okay.
Many
let's-
translations, but it's ice novel.
Eisnogel. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh no, you're fine.
And
Okay.
it's Out of Pockets to Pick. David is a writer and mental health advocate from the Midwest. He has written nonfiction work for the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and the National Alliance on Mental Illness, as well as poetry for Asylum magazine, A Tether to This World, Main Street Rag, From Whispers and Roars, and others. He also produces a YouTube channel focused on addiction and mental health called No Chaser with David Eisnogel. Take it away.
Thank you. They tell me the copay for my medication is only $150. The best way to measure privilege is the way people use the word only. They tell me I should be relieved because without insurance, it would have been 800. Why not make it 1 million? They tell me never, never, never stop taking your psychiatric medications abruptly unless you can't afford them, apparently. I'm already buying off-brand food just to pay for the off-brand generic prescriptions. Maybe I could afford the 150, but what I can't afford is the uncertainty because last month it was 120. So spare me the carpet bombing of jargon you think will bully away my questions. It's complicated, ain't an answer, especially when it's on purpose. Here's something not complicated. People die without insulin. So don't intimate that this is negotiable. Don't intimidate and call it consensual. And don't boast about what insurance has saved me when it's all monopoly money. I've spent way too many lunch breaks on hold just to be told I shouldn't have an ailment that's in network. My patience has met my out of pocket. I just want it to make sense. If an apple a day keeps the doctor away, then this system is an orchard rotten to the core. It has the bedside manner of a buzzsaw. And no, I can't tell you how to fix it, but that doesn't make me or it less broke. So if y'all keep blowing smoke, I'm going to keep pulling the fire alarms until the insulin runs out.
Thank you, David. That's a really powerful poem with a great rating. Thank you for that. We could feel and share the outrage. And now we'll be following now with Phoenix Ning, and she's going to be reading for us Birthday Wishes. Phoenix Ning is a 20-year-old Chinese writer of sapphic anti-heroines and queer found families. She's currently a senior studying human-computer interaction. When not writing, she can be found watching C-dramas and penning raps. A fierce advocate of diversity in media, she hopes that her audience will feel empowered after reading her works or listening to her songs. Learn more at ladyphoenixning.com. And Phoenix also has a novel out. She was just telling us before we started the recording that came out in June.
Hi, is it okay if I keep my cameras off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So So Birthday Wishes by Phoenix Ning. 16-year-old person of color desires escape from this inferno where dark-skinned individuals burn while alabaster spectators cheer from the sidelines, popping confetti guns and feeding oil to ancient flames while claiming to be long-awaited saviors. 18-year-old student desires world history classes with curriculums that celebrate African kingdoms, indigenous empires, and South Asian cultures, textbooks that condemn armor-clad imperialists stripping gowns of freedom, articles that honor revolutionaries whose empty pockets did not silence them from shouting. 23-year-old woman desires to shatter the chains created by men who think all girls are moons trapped by their gravity, males who believe themselves to be suns instilling life into fragile females who must offer their bodies as tokens of gratitude. 20-year-old lesbian desires to taste the sweet wine of love and cavort in inebriated glory with the woman whose gentle touch sparks wildfires in her heart frozen by acerbic remarks followed by toxic relatives when she turns her head away from men and smiles at her rough-hewn lady love. That's it.
That's wonderful, Ning. Thank you.
It was
Yes, thank you very much.
It was really, really relatable. Next up is Mandira Patnick with A Moon is a Moon is a Moon. Mandira is the author of collections Anatomy of a Storm-Weathered Quaint Townspeople, Girls Who Don't Cry, and Where We Set Our Easel, which is forthcoming from Stanchion Publishing. Mandira's work has appeared in the McNeese Review, Penn Review, Quarterly West, Citron Review, Passages North, Dash, Miracle Monocle. That's really hard to say if you have a speech impediment. Timber Journal, Contrary, Watershed Review, Amsterdam Quarterly, and Prime Number Magazine, among others. She edits for Trampset and Vestal Review. You can learn more at mandirapatnick.com. Hi, Mandira.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm going to read A Moon is a Moon is a Moon. Because you are the moon, mother thinks you're full of circles and spots, never consistent. You're oscillating between rebellious and sulking, and often hiding in hoodie jackets of woolly clouds. You are silver, but break china even with a sponge scrubber. You are mostly saying what is best avoided, always making mistakes. Sister is better. She poses no troubles, hangs on the wall like a dishcloth, never speaks, obeys what is ordered, is helpless to what others do to her, like land to raging climate. In fact, like the trees and fields and earth, she now never does anything at all. When Aunt Rima comes visiting, shepherding guests known to her, strangers to us, but we suspect it's the same consideration as 2 weeks before, one that will make our family smaller by taking one away. It's sister who goes first, her hair plaited, jasmine flowers in them, carrying a tray of sherbet in finest wine glasses, breathes and listens while they make plans, and speaks only in consenting nods, even though it's a marriage we are talking about. You are told to walk to the store with a list of items that you are sure aren't urgent. But what can circles do when they are rolled about? It's best to stay away. Grooms are known to prefer one to the other, as though they are items on a shelf. When you get back from the store, the guests are gone, but the atmosphere at home is loud and vengeful, the conversation denting the walls. It emerges that when the prospective groom had asked sister if she can cook bhindi aloo keema or embroider or tie bani threads, and you know the answer is no, but your sister, being bland, unchanging, consented to all, and now it was a question of truth versus dare. Because you are the moon, sister suggests is the circles, well-rounded, that are the problem. She hasn't any on her body. She blames you, like you are likely a positron, having a positive charge that attracts men of marriageable age. But the men are repelled by her, because she is firmer and leaner with the nuclei within, likely a collision into annihilation. When you wonder how she would know because the grooms never came to meet you, she says it's how their eyes rove, peek behind the drawn curtain. Because you're the moon, you are still the moon when many months later your sister, like land, unchanging, cannot escape when the man she married to was merciless to her, beating her so much that she landed in ICU, and his family watched like good riddance. And your mother was told only a day after, a call from the crematorium. Because you are the moon, you'll make yourself small thereafter, waning, 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 completely disappear. So the men know you are unreliable and never come near. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was really powerful and touching. An amazing reading. Thanks. And now I will introduce Angela. Angela Whitehorn is going to be reading for us Emma Thompson, Full Frontal at 62. Angelica Whitehorn. Angelica is a writer living in Durham, North Carolina, with published work in Westwind Poetry, Mantis, Airlight Magazine, and the Laurel Review, among others. She is the author of the chapbook, The World is Ending, Say Something That Will Last, from Bottlecap Press, and it was released in 2022. Besides being a devastated poet, Angelica is a marketing content writer for a green energy loan company and volunteers with Autumn House Press. Learn more at her website, angelicawhitehorn.myportfolio.com. Thank you for being with us tonight, Angelica.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a found poem from Emma Thompson's interviews for Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. So all of the lines are from words and phrases that she said during her interviews. It's called Emma Thompson, Full Frontal at 62. It's challenging to be nude at 62, the age that I am. Nothing has changed. Can't stand in front of a mirror, always pulling something, judging it. The neural pathways of 8-year-olds going, I hate my thighs. I was 14, hating my body. Everything that surrounds us reminds us how imperfect we are. Everything is wrong with us. In acting, it's challenging to see untreated bodies on the screen. We aren't used to women in the real world. We aren't used to seeing time. This thing is the same as it ever was. The dreadful demands carved into my soul. I didn't think I could have done it, and yet I can't just stand there. So I stood there, nude at 62. This is your vessel. It's your house. It's where you live. I have lived in it. I have experienced pleasure in it. Thank you.
I love this poem because it relates so much to a class I teach, gender and health, and we talk about body image a lot. So I've put this on the in the syllabus for this coming semester. Thank you so much, Angelica. Yeah.
That makes me so happy. That's amazing. Thank you.
No, thank you. It's just right on. And as a 66-year-old person with a female body, boy, can I relate.
Okay, so now we are moving on to Banu Zan, The Rise of the Martyr.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you so much to Writers Resist, fellow writers and everyone who's joining us tonight for support. Before I share the poem, I would like to say a little bit about what I'm doing, and that's, among other things, I'm the co-editor of an anthology that we are still accepting submissions until March 2024, which means next year. This is 2023. I say that because a lot of people make this mistake. It's called Woman, Life, Freedom, Poems for the Iranian Revolution. We are accepting poems in English and translated into English from around the world. The anthology is going to be published by Guernica Editions, a little publisher in Canada, and because they've opened it up to international submissions, it means they're losing Canadian grants. As a result of which, we have also opened a GoFundMe campaign to support the anthology. I put the 2 links, submissions as well as the donations, into the chat. If you are a member of an organization or you know people or even individuals who may be interested, please spread the word. We really look at it as a solidarity volume for anyone who may support the cause. And the poem also relates to this Woman Life Freedom movement. The poem that was published in Writers Resist, it is a profile of one of the protesters, a 16-year-old protester in the movement called Nika Shakarami, and it's dedicated to her. The Rise of a Martyr. At your memorial, the Lori song echoed on speakers. Mother, mother, it's time for war. Today would have been your birthday. 40 days before, on the streets of Tehran, dead girl, living God, burning your hijab, darkness on fire, your Darafshakavian, leading the chants, fearless, undaunted, unstoppable. You were the female Kaveh, unlionized in epic. When the dictator's men closed in, revolutionaries dispersed in all directions as shooting stars in a galaxy. And then they were around you. Tall, heavy men who beat and threw you into a car. That night, your phone was disconnected. All your photos and videos, dances and singing gone. Today would have been your birthday. The search started in hospitals, prisons, morgues. Days after, your mother received a call. The kid was in our custody for a week. Revolutionary Guards wanted to slowly interrogate her. After we built the case file, she was transferred to Evin prison. Then the call came. The family summoned to identify your body. Today would have been your birthday. At your funeral, hundreds were waiting for your coffin that never arrived. Your lifeless body kidnapped, buried in some distant place. But the uprising was where the people were. At your tomb. That was not your tomb. Your mother held up your photo. No tears in her eyes. Today would have been your birthday, but is now your burial day. Your martyrdom Mubarak, Nika. Your birthday Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing the poem and that powerful reading with us, Banu. And now we're gonna go in the opposite direction. So if you have something, other piece that you would like to read for us, we'll be happy to hear you.
So should I read Banu's bio real quick? Because I didn't get a chance to do it. So let me, just before you give us the next poem, Banu. She is a poet, librettist, translator, teacher, editor, and poetry curator with more than 250 published poems and poetry-related pieces, as well as 3 books, including Song of Exile and Letters to My Father. She is the founder of Shabab Shear, I hope I said that okay, Canada's most diverse poetry reading and open mic series, which began in 2012. A brave space that bridges the gap between communities of poets from different ethnicities, nationalities, religions, or lack thereof, that's me, ages, genders, sexual orientations, disabilities, poetic styles, voices, and visions. Vanu is the writer in residence at the University of Alberta, Canada, September 2022 through May 2023.
Thank you so much. Actually, the residency ended at the end of May, but thank you so much. So this poem is actually very recent. I finished it last night. It's again a profile of another protester. This time, the dissident rapper, Toomaj Salehi. Toomaj has been arrested and has been kept in solitary confinement for over 8 months under inhumane torture. You will hear more in the poem. And recently was tried behind closed doors. And among the accusations that the state is raising against him is corruption on earth. And corruption on earth under the Islamic Republic regime actually carries the death penalty. I'm not a rapper, but I tried to rapify this poem. And so this is called The Fight for Toomaj Salehi. I'm a singer. I'm a writer. I'm not for sale. My pen won't forgive me if I live in fear. I came back to life after 20 days, broken fingers, broken ribs, broken legs, my eyesight dim, alone in this cell, but I won't give in. 200 days alone in this hell. I need a lawyer, can't get a lawyer. I need a doctor, can't get a doctor. My bones are broken, my words are not. My eyesight is dimmed, my vision is not. Broken, 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 unbroken. In this bout between words and silence, I'm the one standing tall. I bob and weave, words, words, words. Pen, rap is my pen. I punch lies in the gut, clinch the censor, footwork with words. I write what should be and what should not. I write of their crimes. I write of our fight. Rap is protest, the voice of the voiceless, hanging on gallows or rotting in jail, a roof for the homeless who sleep in grave. Rap is my crime, my corruption on earth. So I call out their corruption on earth. They think they're gods. They want me to die, cause I can see right through their lie. But once the voice, always the voice. I'm the voice of the voiceless. I'm the voice of the voice.
Thank you very much. I mean, for another powerful piece, and now we go back to Angelica Whitehorn. Would you like to read something else for us tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a piece called Unmothers. It's a kind of imagining on some of the things that women identified or people with uteruses go through with the choices of their bodies. Okay, Unmothers. Unmothers in cargo pants, mini skirts, tall boots, slingback sandals. Unmothers with tan lines and dark circles. Across every place and profession, dialects dripping like local honeys from their lips, standing on manicured grass or shifting sand or walking along hot cement. They shield themselves from rays or rain, are wanderers or homesteads. Unmothers ringing up tampons and mozzarella cheese and Triscuits. Unmothers with arty children hanging around their necks. Unmothers as still children themselves, as pigeons flocking outside schoolyards, as mice in the library at midnight. Unmothers roasting oil and chili flakes in an uncontrollable heat that just keeps rising. on mothers on the double shift, on mothers taking breaths in a body that does not feel like their body, on mothers nursing their mothers, on mothers nursing a whiskey rye behind the bar on an abandoned night, on mothers nursing the remnants of their last paycheck, on mothers undressing, dressing again, the risk in that motion, on mothers thumbing their rosary beads, rites as a prayer. From all these anywheres, the news hits the stained oak of the unmother's eyelids. They blink them open and read, and the reports say that they are still passenger planes. So the unmothers charter the vast expanse of historical servitude and see how many seats they can keep empty. Unmothers, straining under the heavy cross of shame, half the world on their backs and the weight of their own bodies. Unmothers, looking you in the eyes, asking you, isn't it heavy enough? Thank you.
Thank you.
You. Oh, go ahead, Renee.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to ask Mandira if she wanted to read another piece.
Yeah, I'm reading Mid-Flight Plummeting Albatross. It is nearly on the same theme as my previous piece. So it was in Moonflake Press a few months ago. So here it is. Several digits would be cracked before she would understand why her fingers ached, or why her limbs threatened to cast off, and why she keeps counting the feathers that sprout from her body hair, because that will finally tell her that she is a bird, descended from theropods, the same one as the more famous Tyrannosaurus rex. And why all this? While her Insta account was named Wandering Albatross, though she rarely posted pictures of a cracked digit from when she defended herself from a blow, or a swell just below the eye she chooses to ignore, because, you know, rage is blind, and she must be doing something wrong, as a mother told her. But she knows, like that bird albatross, she has the longest wingspans. She can be free when she's done with this business of being a dutiful wife and keeping this tiny nest up on the 13th floor clean, and Singapore's traffic down below merely the hiss of a serpent that would rather hibernate and sink into the sea. And she, like a young albatross, could spend years at sea, all life, never ever touch land, and if she could, she would. But he will be here soon, tired after work, and would ask a warm dinner served right away. Not too much to ask, really. What does she do all day after all? And then, without as much as a squeak or a warble or a trill, they will be in bed, and he'd soon be snoring. And she will stand before the mirror, count her feathers from one more day, for she is hoping she will be gone when there are enough to carry her weight, her shoulders powerful enough to fly. Picture a Zuazua, a land of milk and honey, ancient and plentiful. Throw in some satiating rain pattering down, and into the wild of another night, she'll sleep like a mallard duck, one eye open and one leg loose, hanging by the bedside, ready to escape. Thank you.
Thank you for reading to us. And now we're gonna go to Phoenix. Phoenix, do you have another piece for us?
I was thinking I could read like the first 5 pages of my novel, if that's okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. I think that'll be fine.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
share away.
Okay. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Let me move this. It can be up here. Okay, this is like the little excerpt at the beginning. Then I'll go to like the first page. But 7 queer people of color with superpowers work together to overthrow an oligarchy. Fanaka fisted the podium. They call us savages, yet they're the ones separating children from mothers. They call us groomers, yet they're the ones coercing young girls into spreading their legs. They call us pedophiles, Yeah, they're the ones altering the curriculums to brainwash kids. They call us uncouth. Yeah, they're the ones wasting their breaths on name calling while the people suffer. We only want the peace that is promised to us. Yeah, their misbehaviors force us to rebel. Knowing these facts, who are the true villains? The audience roared. It's the administration. That's right, Fanaka shouted. They think they can drown us out with their noise, but we stand triumphant. I have a message for the Chancellor and his Board of Trustees. The more you try to bury us, the firmer our roots. The more you try to silence us, the louder our song. So I'm just gonna move through this like front matter, but dedication to queer people of color. You're loved, you're needed, you're beautiful, you're legendary, you're iconic, so keep being you. Little map I made. My artist drew the people in the story. I'm just gonna skip that little epigraph, but okay, so I'm just gonna read like 4 or 5 pages. Okay, so chapter 1, why should I yield? To the onlookers gathered around Meteor Square's execution platform, nothing appeared out of the ordinary. 2 soldiers in white forced Fanaka Rudisha up the creaky steps toward a wooden stool placed before Mike. A top student from Skyline Military Academy's graduating class sat a few paces away, her face hidden behind an unfurled scroll bearing Chancellor Portelli's pardon. Another scroll rested on her lap for Fanaka. Thick clouds parted overhead. Shafts of sunlight touched the bruised face of a whimpering convict, kneeling by the student, his polished handcuffs gleaming. Beyond the barricades caging the scaffold, the crowd hummed their usual tune of jeers and whispers. Sunbeams caught on the multicolored jewels adorning their ears and throats, glinted off the golden threads laced into their summer clothes, accentuated their light complexions until they appeared ghost-like. They leered at the nightstone cuffs choking Fanaka's wrists and mocked her powerlessness. They praised the Portelli family for discovering the gem that had ended her reign of arson and curbed her ability to levitate objects with a mere thought. Fanaka sneered on the stool. Chancellor Portelli would sooner sacrifice them all before he would even think to care for their well-being. But like caught to like, these clowns would rather bury people like Fanaka than ever admit that the clothes they wore and the jewels they flaunted were provided to them by the very individuals they deemed subhuman. A hush swept through the square when the Skyline student cleared her throat into the mic that a soldier held for her. She lowered the scroll, and her features gave Fanaka pause. The girl's dark chestnut hair spilled from her scalp onto her waist. Her monolid eyes were creamy brown like the morning coffee Fanaka had once shared with her younger brother in the orphanage. The student most likely hailed from Cosmonia, the northeastern sector of the Skyline Federation, a city perpetually blanketed by snow and illuminated by neon signs advertising cutting-edge pharmaceutical technology. It was rare for the academy to admit students of color. It was rarer still for students of color to be honored as top graduates, given that the Skyline system had been built to preserve elitism. But the school was also known for its tokenism, so Fanaka wasn't that surprised. If anything, the girl reminded Fanaka of an old friend who had attended the academy on scholarship but was scapegoated and nearly executed. The next few moments passed by in the usual litany. The reading of the same long-winded speech supposedly authored by the Chancellor, the announcement that the Chancellor had granted pardon to the sweating convict, the shouts of gratitude the convict issued between sobs, the cheers from the crowd that always sliced up Fanaka's ears. The student unrolled the second scroll, the one intended to humiliate Fanaka. All around in the shops that surrounded the scaffold, owners and customers alike pressed their faces to the storefront windows. Some of them made prayer gestures to deities long dead for Fanaka to finally accept the Chancellor's clemency after she declined him 7 times in the past 7 months. Fanaka signed. Nightshade, you are guilty on multiple charges of arson and murder. You are the prime suspect of being the instigator behind the 4 factory fires. The student wiped away beads of sweat from her brow. You have been sentenced to 75 years in Zenith for it, but the Chancellor empathizes with his people. Though your incomplete records obscure your origin, the Chancellor wants you to know that no matter where you hail from and what your past occupations were, the Chancellor stands with every citizen of the Skyline Federation. Therefore, he has chosen to grant you parole, cutting down your sentence to a mere 35 years. Once you repent your wrongdoings and swear to dedicate the rest of your life to community service, the parole will be in effect. The crowd burst into sing-song praises of the Chancellor's magnanimity, can never say that word, raising their left fists to the sky. Searing heat tore through Fanaka's body, a boiling anger that she struggled to contain. Back when she had worn the boy's uniform to junior high and answered to a different name, the chancellor's lies didn't matter that much. But that was before blonde academy students stormed Rhodesia Pharma and arrested Baba on account of treason. That was before Mama had sacrificed herself at that desolate bus station so Fanaka and her brother could escape to the orphanage. That was before Fanaka swore to her parents' makeshift graves in the Elysian woods that she would avenge them or die trying. A sticky gust tore through Media Square, bringing with it the stench of sweat and sand. Fanaka tapped her right foot against the stool's leg in an effort to stay calm. The brainwashed crowd continued their celebratory chants. It'd be nice to set these fuckers on fire, sprinkle their ashes on a pie, and smash that pie onto the chancellor's alabaster face. The two soldiers on the scaffold blew into their whistles, and the crowd quieted. Eager faces whipped toward the student, who continued reading from the second scroll that once again painted Fanaka as the sinner and Chancellor Portelli as the savior. The student placed an unfolded parchment onto her lap and met Fanaka's eyes. Do you accept the Chancellor's clemency, Nightshade, where you set an example for your 3 rebel partners? Fanaka's muscles begged to tense at the mention of her sisters in arms, but she forced herself to remain relaxed, to act as if the student had not just issued a thinly veiled threat that if Fanaka continued to defy, the Academy will hunt down Jimena, Giselle, and Chaewon. Together, they were known as the Blossom Four, bakery workers by day and vigilantes by night. Their codenames Nightshade, Marigold, Tulip, and Chrysanthemum. Fanaka's friends had never stumbled upon a yellow diamond that granted them telekinesis, an ability that interested the Chancellor. Thus, the Portelli administration only had use for Fanaka, and the other 3 would be executed publicly without trial. All the dissidents were, okay, one more page and then it's going to be done. Do you accept the Chancellor's clemency, Nightshade? The student repeated. Fanaka loosened a throaty laugh. The soldiers shot forth and flanked the student, their smooth hands twitching of the telltale bulges of concealed guns holstered on their leather belts. Somewhere in the distance, a murder of crows cried out. Fanaka glared at the scroll, imagining it in shreds and a fire. Why should I yield when I've done nothing wrong? Fanaka spoke into her mic. Why would I willingly give into his will of making me an example of compliance to further oppress my people? Someone in the crowd insulted her, then another and another. The only thing I did was torch those 3 corporate buildings at night when they were empty, Fanaka continued. That's what those white-collar fuckers get for coercing young girls into sleeping with them in exchange for promotion. They know those girls need the money to provide for their families. As for the 4 factory fires, it's not a surprise that the workers revolted. These white-collar fuckers are the ones who swear their honesty in front of airhead judges appointed by your chancellor. Those white-collar fuckers are the ones who the jury favors because the jury is full of clowns like you. Why the hell should I apologize when the problem is all around this platform and not in me? The crowd roared. Fanaka seized the mic, sprang up, and roared louder. Why don't you clowns go demand an answer from your beloved chancellor? He is the real culprit behind the 4 factory fires. He has eyes and ears everywhere in the Federation. There's no fucking way he couldn't have caught wind of the workers' movement beforehand. He is the one who murdered them in cold blood because the dead can't talk. The Chancellor is guilty of the very crimes he is pinning on me and my sisters. Open your damn eyes. You can check out the rest somewhere else. How do I stop shit?
Thank you very much, Phoenix.
Of course. Thank you guys for listening.
Absolutely. And you did share the link with us, right? In the chat?
Yes, I can post it again if you guys want.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be a great time to do it again. And,
Thank you.
And now, yeah, you're welcome. And now we're gonna go to David. David, do you have something additional to read for us tonight?
Yeah, I just have a one poem. And again, thank you for this opportunity and everything. I think I forgot to mention that before. But yeah, I have one poem I have that concerns the homeless and their treatment. So give me 1 second here. All right, and this is called Smoke Break. He picks from the outdoor ashtray with a shameless focus, fingers like fleshy scissors pecking through the chalky ash, sifting through the pile of Marlboro corpses. The filters of the smokes nearly fossilized from the dried fire and winterized saliva, now cemented to the tips from the cold night before. His hand is like the beak of a bird driving for sturdy straw to build a nest. Some filters were crushed hard enough to rip the cotton guts of the cigarette butt, revealing the whiteness of the inside before the inhale, staining the innards with butternut squash smear. His fingers dig gently, trying to find a filter that moves the pile in a way that exposes one butt will have enough of a bone to be smoked. The fact that his lips will touch the residue of some other's spit does not concern him, nor is he concerned with the notion that the crust of slobber could come from some person who's sick, or the red rust around the filter may not be lipstick. These concerns are a luxury of thought that his mind can no longer afford. His fingers, now dusted to a ghostly gray, carefully peruse the desert of ash for a camel that was left unfinished because its owner had something the man does not have, a job to get back to, a call from someone who needs him, a home to return to. If we won't give him shelter, if we won't give him aid or care or what he needs to live, at least let him have this without staring in disgust. The man does not see himself as a scavenger, but someone who has taken it upon themselves to finish what others had started, even they won't do it for him. He doesn't believe this, but he still assigns this narrative to his craft. It just makes it easier to plunge his hand into that silver bird bath and dig through the ash. That's all.
Thank you very much, David. And now we go to Emma Goldman Sharman.
Hi. So thank you again.
Welcome back.
Thinking about what to read, you know, Jenin and the massacre that happened this past week have really been on my mind a lot. I was in Palestine in 1993, documenting human rights abuses there, only back then no one would listen. It's still really hard to get people to listen. And as a Jew, I think it's really important to be outspoken about human rights for all people. So this is basically found text from documentation I did when I was there. And the Palestinian woman, Amel, who is speaking in the text, asked me to share this. I actually wrote a full-length play about this, and there's a podcast of it that you can actually access for free right there. It's in the chat. And the only thing you really need to know here is the word shabab means kids in this context, usually boys or a bunch of kids. And this is called How Amel's Father Died During the First Intifada. He was a farmer. He had a truck to take our produce to the market. The truck was small, a flatbed with high wooden fencing. When it started, the Shabab used to hide in the back to throw stones at the soldiers. My father put a lock, but they would climb in anyway. First, the soldiers tore up the back of the truck. My father made a new one. Then we heard them destroying it again. He went to ask them to stop, and they arrested him for being outside during curfew. My father went to jail for 6 months. When he returned to us, he rebuilt the back of the truck. Then one night he heard the soldiers. Afraid to go out to be arrested again, we could hear them attacking the truck. They called my father by his name. They pounded on our door. They demanded he join them, and he stayed inside. So they set his truck on fire. When he saw the flames, he went and they shot him.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your poem and the story behind it, the context. We invite now Maureen Fielding. Do you have something additional for us?
Yes. I'd like to share a picture while I'm reading it. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So before the pandemic, I was in South Korea doing research on the surviving comfort women and representations of them. And I was able to go to the House of Sharing where some of the survivors live. It's basically a kind of nursing home and museum. And there were two women living there with the same name, Lee Ok Sun. So they gave them nicknames to differentiate them. And this is a picture of the one they call Songnisan Harmony, who Songnisan is a mountain. And my group was able to spend some time with her and we got to talk to her. It was wonderful. So I'm just going to read my poem about her. Birthday Girl. Reborn on a mountain, she tells her story, how she was taken at 15, spent 3 years in a camp somewhere in China, a slave to Japanese soldiers, rape, her daily torture. Finally rescued and returned to her village, she hoped to heal, but her neighbors' daily demands for their own dead daughters, as if she were to blame or could raise the dead, drove her to the mountain and the monastery. She worked for tips, survived, prospered, bought a small house, lived. Now sitting on her bed in the house of sharing, she tells her tale to strangers who watch with shining eyes, admiring this white-haired wonder. They call her Songnisan Halmini, Songni Mountain Grandmother. She is the backbone of Korea, made of generations of metamorphic rock like the Baekdu Dagon Range, a conduit of life-giving force and protection. She is gneiss, the rock of mountain building, quartzite forged by heat and pressure, impervious to the sharpest blades and enduring granite. Songni Mountain is ablaze in color in fall, blinding with the reflected glory of snow in winter, abloom in spring and verdant in summer. 92 years, she has outlived most of her victimizers and her fellow victims. We sing to her, celebrate her birthday. Like nice, bright and sparkling, like quartzite, sugary and lustrous, she smiles and laughs with the beauty of the mountain. Thank you.
Thank you. What a beautiful celebration. Amal is next. Andrea Dulanto. Do you have something for us?
Am I next then? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I do have something, and it's I don't know, it's not exactly political in a direct way, but it's about estrangement, which I'm writing more and more about. So I'll go ahead and start. It's a poem that was published in a journal, a queer journal called Peculiar. And I'll put the link in the chat if anyone is interested in checking out the journal. Estranged. I came out to my mother driving her home from work, 22, 23 years old. Eso nos pasa a todos. Yo también tenía amigas. Happens to everyone, she said. When we're young, we all have close friends. Then you marry, have kids. Driving from the airport to my mother in Mount Sinai Hospital, we hadn't spoken in almost 2 years. Before that, on and off, estranged. I hear her say it in English, estranged, but she never said it in English. I don't know if she knew what it meant, or if she said it in Spanish, if she told anyone how we didn't speak. I was 30. We wouldn't speak again. What I mean is we wouldn't use words. La hija left la madre, la madre, la madre, la madre. No hay razón, hay mucha razón, no importa si hay razón. La madre es todo, familia es todo. La hija es nada, sin familia. I was afraid to stay alone in kindergarten, so she hit me with a switch or a regla every day after school. I slept in her bed until I was almost 11. Tenías miedo del oscuro. But I wasn't afraid of the dark. I was afraid to be without my mother. She told me later the real reason I slept in her bed. She didn't want me to hate her for hitting me. Maybe. Or this is how she kept my father away. I don't know what, or if she knew. At 13, I was ready to leave her. Please, let me be normal. Let me go to the movies alone with my friend. Always no. And finally, inexplicably, yes. But also, ¿te recuerdas the kindergarten? She pretended to be 5-year-old me, crying, No te vayas, no te vayas. ¿Te recuerdas? How I used to cry for her not to leave. 15 years old, dressed in all black, drunk on whatever I could find in her hardly ever opened liquor cabinet. I lied to her about everything. I didn't know myself around her. I didn't know what was true. I didn't know if she loved me. Claro que I love you. Mira todo que hago para ti. When she died, I felt like it was my fault. Didn't matter the time or distance. Thank you.
Wow, that was, I second KB, that was so real and so touching. That was wonderful. Thank you. And now we have Christy Bushevecki. Welcome back.
Thank you. I realized, like David, I forgot to thank you for publishing my piece and all of you for participating tonight. And I really struggled to come up with what my second piece tonight was going to be. And honestly, this one is something that I'm still workshopping a bit, but I would very much like to share with you now. I'm going to share screen in case I stumble over the words a bit. They hear a pounding at the door. It's sounding more like broken glass. A grim man, straight-backed, limps downstairs where his young family wouldn't see what must be done to protect his self-respect, hardened and hard-won. The eldest son guards the landing, cruel world demanding vigilance that he once more before his time stand as last thin line, defending the one thing left worth fighting for. Pop wound him up and here's the pitch. Prepare to swing that stick. It's make or break, so take aim at the knee of this beautiful, unjust life of yours. Failure is a luxury we can't afford. And so that boy grew to believe to achieve worth, you must produce results. To be of use, you work down the block, treasured each red cent, each dollar spent, a step that served to represent a swerve away from that place where you were raised. You make it out and fight like hell to dispel those perceived slights that doubt your right to this reward. Failure is a luxury you can't afford. 15 years on, your father gone, a baby girl now in your arms, you swear to make them proud. And here is where the verse breaks down. The freshest wounds still hurt too much to rhyme. I grew up understanding failure as a luxury we couldn't afford. You didn't mean to teach this, always claiming to work so hard so I wouldn't have to. But working to live became living to work, and every night I watched your recliner become a pew where you worshipped Warhol's painted idol, striving your only sacrament. Somewhere along the way, you put me on a pedestal too, and took my failures as your own. Still that scared little boy atop the stairs, being asked to be a man too soon, wielding your baseball bat, ready to kneecap anyone coming for what's yours. Seeing your pain crack through makes me yearn to take a bat myself. Instead, the best gift I could ever give you is learning not to be afraid of failure. And that will finally have to be good enough, because generosity is virtue and failure is still a luxury I'm not sure I can afford to give myself.
Thank you very much for sharing that poem with us, Christy.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. That was brave and wonderful.
Thank you.
And we have come full circle, and now we have Arthur Altarejos.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who read. All of your works are beautiful. Let me just share my screen real quick. The next poem I have is, like, like my bio said earlier, I work within translation within Filipino and Tagalog and English. And I'd like to share this poem with you. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, so just some introductions to so there are a few references in this poem, but the most important one is that the name of Manila City, the capital of the Philippines, is derived from a plant. So a lot of historians still can't decide. There is no consensus as to which plant it's derived from. It's either nila, which is derived from the Sanskrit word which means indigo, or nilad, a type of flowering plant found in the mangrove forests. And both plants were abundant in the waterways of Manila. Incidentally, the Tagalog word nila can also be used as a possessive pronoun. Theirs, while the Tagalog word may is a participle used as an existential marker, to be or to have. So Manila means a place with indigo, or a place where you can find the nilad flower. And a little bit of history in the Philippines. We often say about our colonial history, we spent 300 years at a convent and 50 years in Hollywood, because we were colonized by Spain for 300 years, and we were a colonial possession of the US for 50 years. And back when the Philippines was a colonial possession, the United States needed Manila ropes, which was produced by a plant native to the Philippines called abaca, or Manila hemp, for their military purposes, which led to efforts to control the abaca trade, ensuring that the bulk of the abaca harvests were exported to the United States. And Manila hemp rope was previously the favored variety of rope used for executions by hanging in the US. So this is my nila. My people say my and mean possession, to denote the presence of, like the way this city is named after a flower, Indigofera, Eichhornia, or Scyphiphora. We can't be sure which flowers made her, but we know she means floriferous, a place abundant with spring. Once, maybe. There are no more flowers in Manila, not after the fires and the bombs, not after a cataclysm of blood curdling into the cold concrete of brutalism and the mathematics of air-conditioned shopping malls. Not without a river, now slack with the prescribed amounts of polyethylene and the latest fashion. Now flowers won't grow in a place devoid of abstractions, but language is a claymore. My people say nila and mean possession. Not flower, not blooming, but theirs. Manila. Like the envelope or the rope, these goods to manage an empire, leaving just enough for the hangman to cinch a noose. To be, to have, indigos, hyacinths, matters, bounties and riches brought to rubble, bodies buried in cement, in grand halls and theaters, a division of thought by them, of them, by which I mean us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arthur. What a powerful weaving of a poem. Such a powerful ending. And I think we have gone in a circle, going back and forth. And before concluding words, I just want to thank you all for being here and being part of this community, this temporary community that we have gathered together tonight. I really appreciated all your readings. And Sarah, would you like to say some final words, and KB?
Sure. Sorry, my computer did something super weird and I was completely blind. And also, I think my puppy is trying to break out of the house. So everything's crazy here. It was nice to see all of you. You all kind of ripped my heart out tonight. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
I would like to just reiterate the thanks to all. Thank you for sharing your creative resistance with us. Thank you for taking the time tonight. I will send out an email when the recording is posted. One last thing I want to point out is we are really as much as a publication can be dedicated to diversity, we have just added a field to your account when you sign up to submit in our submission system that asks for gender identity. And I just wanted to explain the reasoning behind that for any of you who might have newly registered. There is such an assault today against people of diverse genders, and it's obviously very upsetting. And I think it's really important that we go out of the way to make sure we publish in the greatest diversity that we possibly can, and in the most loving way, because there's so much hate right now. So please let your circles know that we embrace and love diversity. And the reason for that field is to make sure that people understand simply, you don't even have to fill it out. It's not required, but it's presence is a message, I think, to those people who might be feeling battered right now. So spread the word for us when you have the opportunity. And thank you again for being with us this evening. It was really powerful. And now I'm going to go cry over a glass of wine. Thank you for the lovely evening.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. It was great to hear all of you.